Well, welcome to another edition of How to Survive. You know, in the last edition, and I think this will be number 2, we talked about how, people, don't think ahead. They don't think of what they're doing and where they're going and what could happen to them. And that's, that awareness, that lack of awareness often leads to disaster. It's easy to understand how that happens and why most people in our modern society are not survivalists, are not preppers. Because after all, if you want food, it's 10 minutes away in the car to the store, to a grocery store full of more food than you could eat in a lifetime. And it seems like we could never run out. You want protection? Pick up the phone, dial 3 numbers, 911. The police are at your door, supposedly. In real life, it doesn't actually work quite that way. Whatever you want, it's there. You water, you turn the tap, and water comes out. My family homesteaded in Montana around the turn of the century. They had a 157-acre ranch up in the mountains. They had an outhouse. Well, my grandmother I'm talking about here. They had a pump, just like in the Old West, to pump water. And my grandmother lived in that house till sometime in the 60s when she died. And she lived in that ranch. And she had a pump. I don't know if she ever had a regular, she never had, she wasn't connected to the city. There was no lines up there. This is how she lived. And when they needed food, they bought food well in advance and stocked up for the winter time. They grew grain, they grew hay, they raised cattle and chickens and horses. That's how they got through the Great Depression. And, they were, quote, survivalists. That's how everyone lived. To largely back in those days, everyone had to, kind of realize there was no infrastructure. There were no giant grocery stores back then. So it's not surprising that people today not only don't prepare and think of things that can happen, but they think that people who do prepare are crazy. Because they don't think that grocery store can ever, that food will ever disappear. I was watching some news here recently about the hurricanes that were going to hit New York, and store shelves were clearing off. Water was gone, store shelves were gone, power is out back east, and water is out, and all these things we take for granted have disappeared. Where I live, power goes out all the time, which means we can't get water from our well. We're on a well which pumps water to our house, and where I live, power goes out on a regular basis. So for me, having stores of water is just a natural thing. It's part of preparation, prepping, but it's also part of, just I have to, Anyway, I think it's funny in a way that people don't see all this. Maybe people who live in bigger cities, they don't have that much in the way of outages and whatever, but that's why a lot of folks think that preppers and survivalists are crazy, because they look at that giant grocery store full of food and can't imagine it being all gone. They don't realize it comes in trucks, and if there's a run on the food, which it's happened in my hometown, and a certain disaster we had here. Grocery store shelves just cleared off. Last Angeles riots, another example of that. Hurricane Katrina, I can name them one after another. But anyway, I think for most people it would be wise to realize that the overabundance we have in our society of food and water and protection and shelter is basically an illusion brought on by modern society. In most places in the world, a lot of places in the world, it's not like that. In Africa and a lot of other places, these people have to, they have to survive. They have to be able to get food themselves. A lot of other places. Our country, it's basically an illusion we have here. At least most people think that there's no need for survivalism or no need for prepperism. Prepperism, is that a word? And the people who do prep and people who do, aren't into survival are kind of crazy. I think also part of the problem is a lot of people in bigger cities never camp. They don't go backpacking deep into the wilderness as I have, as a young man. And when you do that for the first time, it really hits you in the face that you are on your own. You have the water you brought, you have the food you brought, you have the protection you bought in the way of firearms, against grizzly bears, which we have in abundance here in Montana, unfortunately, or fortunately. You have a first aid kit in case something goes wrong that way, where you can, help yourself. And if something goes wrong, you're alone. You're 20 miles back in the wilderness, in a very inhospitable place. If something goes wrong, at that time when I was a kid, there's no cell phones. Probably no cell lines, been no cell connections in there anyway. Something goes wrong, you are in deep shit. When that hits you as a young man, as it hit me, you realize that, the world's kind of like that, Anyway, well, hope you enjoyed this edition of How to Survive. We'll get into more specific things later on. Right now, I just want to talk about generalities and general ideas. All right, folks, hope you're having a good time. Hope you're surviving. Hope you don't have to actually survive. Hope you're doing well and enjoying the bounty we have in this country and other countries. All right, it's Kel signing out. We'll talk to you later.